Hello friends, in this video we shall have the discussion of the important lesson titled Wings of Fire by A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, and this lesson is prescribed for the first semester BCA, B.SC, Bangalore University and Bangalore North University. And here in this video we'll have the discussion of the 2 marks and 5 marks questions from the lesson Wings of Fire. So let's begin the 2 marks questions. Question number 1. Where was Kalam born? He was born into middle-class Tamil family in the island town of Rameswaram in the erstwhile Madras state. Who were Kalam's parents? Kalam's father Jainulabdin, and Kalam's father's name was Jainulabdin and his mother's name was Ashiyama. What did Kalam observe in his parents as a growing boy? He observed innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. What's the meaning of austere? Means to say strict. A option, strict. Then what made Rameshwaram so sacred to pilgrims? Due to the famous Shiva temple, it was sacred to pilgrims. What did people wait for Jainulabdin outside the mosque? Jainulabdin means to say why people used to wait for Jainulabdin outside the mosque. People of different religions would wait for Kalam's father Jainulabdin for the sanctification of the water that they would take home for invalids. Invalids means to say for the invalids for some sort of religious work. Mention any two routine deeds, any two routine works Jainuddin did as he started his day. So he used to read namaz before dawn, he used to walk down to a small coconut grove, and afterwards he used to have breakfast. What was Setu Karai? What was Setu Karai? Setu Karai was a pilgrim from Rameshwaram to Setu Karai. When did Kalam confront the uncontrollable energy of nature? When did he experience when the Pamban bridge collapsed with a train full of passengers on it? He confronted the uncontrollable energy of nature. Who was Ahmad Jalaluddin, and how did he help Jalaluddin? Ahmad Jalaluddin was Kalam's brother, who used to tell him stories about the Second World War, which in return made Kalam capable of tracing the news of the same stories in the Dinamani newspaper, and he helped Kalam in the boat business. He helped Kalam in the boat business. Kalam had a great companion and guide in Jalaluddin. Give an example. Jalaluddin, that is Kalam's brother, Jalaluddin made Kalam aware of a brave new world beyond his narrow confines. Then, what were the topics of discussion between Kalam and his brother Jalaluddin? Spiritual matters. They used to discuss the spiritual matters. Who was Samsuddin and how did he influence young Kalam? Samsuddin was Kalam's cousin. He was a sole distributor of the newspaper in Rameshwaram, and Samsuddin helped Kalam to earn his first salary. What did newspaper of those days carry with them? Newspapers of those days used to keep abreast of current developments in the national independence movement for astrological reference or to check the bullion rates prevailing in Madras. How did Kalam make his first earnings? When Samsuddin was looking for helping hand to catch the bundles, Kalam helped him and made his first earnings. Bundles here refers to the newspaper bundles. 16. Question number 16. What is the impact of Second World War on the quiet life of Rameshwaram? India was forced to join the Allied forces and something like a state of emergency was declared. The first casualty came in the form of the suspension of the train halt at the Rameshwaram station. So that was the impact of Second World War at Rameshwaram, which was the most widely read newspaper in Rameshwaram. That is a Dinamani. Dinamani. Then 18, question number 18. What was so unique about Kalam's science teacher Shiva Subramanya Iyer? Shiva Subramanya Iyer, though an Orthodox Brahmin, Shiva Subramanya Iyer was an Orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife, but he was something of a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from different backgrounds could easily mingle. Why did Kalam's father quote Khalil Gibran? Spelling error. Khalil Gibran. Kalam's father quoted Khalil Gibran to encourage Kalam to go for higher education. What was Jainul-Abdin's dream for his son Kalam? Jainul-Abdin dreamt Kalam to become a collector. To become a collector. Then now we have the questions for 5 marks. How did Kalam's parents influence his childhood? Kalam was born into a middle class Tamil family in the island town of Rameswaram in the erstwhile Madras state. His father Jainul-Abdin had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite this, he possessed great wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. Both parents were an ideal couple. His mother Ashiyamma came from a more distinguished family. One of her ancestors had been given the title of Bahadur by British. She was equally generous and they fed many outsiders every day. She had a secure child, sorry, Kalam had a secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. His father was very religious, though not very rich. Essential needs, food, medicine, clothes were all provided for. His father used to offer evening prayer in the mosque in his locality and used to pray for all devotees. Many people were cured by his prayers. Question number 2. Jainul Abdin conveyed complex spiritual concepts in a very simple Tamil to Kalam's father. How did he do that with reference to prayer ritual? When Kalam was old enough to ask questions, he asked his father about the relevance of prayer. His father told him there was nothing mysterious about prayer, rather, prayers made possible a communion of the spirit between people. He told him to transcend our body and become a part of cosmos which knows no division of wealth, age, caste or creed. So he said that prayers bring people together. Jainul Abdin could convey the complex spiritual concepts in a very easy, simple, down to earth Tamil language. He remarked that every human being is a specific element within the whole of the manifest divine being. So we should not be afraid of difficulties, sufferings, and problems. During the trouble, the relevance of suffering should be understood, and adversity always presents opportunities for introspection. One must understand the difference between a fear ridden vision of destiny and the vision that enables us to seek the enemy of fulfillment within ourselves. So, this is how he used to solve those complex issues and used to bring up the spirituality in the mind of Kalam. Question number 3. Why did Kalam consider Jainul Abdin and Jalaluddin his childhood icons? Jainul Abdin, his father, Jalaluddin, his brother. So Kalam's father, Jainuddin, believed that whenever human beings find themselves alone or in distress, they look for company, help, or consolation of some kind. Every suffering or desire, pain, or hope finds some special helper. His father considered himself as a helper. He believed that with the help of prayer, worship, or offerings, he can defeat evil or self destructive forces. But with the help of prayer, he knew that they cannot solve day to day problems. Prayer of this sort emanated fear among the people. Fear often prevents one's hope from being fulfilled. He also says happiness and peace of mind come to us from within, not from external sources. Once a person knows this, setback and hurdles become temporary. So Kalam was very much influenced by his father's philosophy. Abdul Kalam was just about 6 years old when his father decided to put his philosophy into practice. Kalam learned from his parents their honesty, self discipline, kindness, and deep rooted faith in goodness. Now, Ahmad Jalaluddin, that is Kalam's brother, had become his close friend of Kalam. When the Pamban bridge had collapsed during the cyclonic storm, when a train full of passengers was crossing over it. He was about 15 years older than Kalam, and he used to call him Azad. They used to go for a long walks together every evening. They used to converse over spiritual matters. He never doubted that the prayers in the temple reached the same destination as the ones offered in other mosques. He only wondered whether Jalaluddin had any other special connection to God. Jalaluddin's schooling had been limited, principally because of his family's very difficult circumstances. Incidentally, at the time he speak of, he was the only one person on the entire island who could write English. So he wrote letters almost anybody in need, be they letters of application or any kind of letters. Jalaluddin always spoke to Abdul Kalam about educated people, scientific discoveries, contemporary literature, achievements of medical science. So it was Jalaluddin who made Kalam aware of a brave new world beyond our narrow confines. He often encouraged Abdul Kalam to read all types of books, and visit his home to borrow books. So that was the impact of Jainuddin, his father, and Jalaluddin, Kalam's brother. Question number 4. Samsuddin introduced to the world to Kalam, is to say the impact of Samsuddin, his cousin. The second person who had great influence on Kalam's childhood was Samsuddin. He was the only one newspaper distributor in Rameshwaram. He helped Kalam to earn his own money in newspaper distribution when there was sudden increase of demand during the Second World War 1939. Samsuddin, his first cousin, trained him in enterprise in economics of trade and labor, which had later reflected in his work. In all curiosity, get an update on the war through pictures. Abdul Kalam would glance at the periodicals and newspapers before Samsuddin. His first cousin would go to deliver to the customer. Due to the emergency, the train halt at Rameshwaram was stopped, and the bundles of the newspapers and the periodicals had to be dropped out of the moving train. Here, Samsuddin engaged Kalam, thus making earn his pay, a matter he took pride in, and he gave full credit to Samsuddin. So here, Mr. Kalam got an opportunity to start his first earning, and he started to help Samsuddin to distribute the newspapers, and that's the first occasion he started to earn money. So the unschooled wisdom of Jalaluddin and Samsuddin was so intuitive and responsive to non-verbal messages that I can unhesitantly attribute my subsequently manifested creativity to the company in my childhood. Unquote. APJ Abdul Kalam in The Wings of Fire. Next question. How did Shiva Subramanya Iyer show his rebellious side being an Orthodox Brahmin? Shiva Subramanya Iyer, Mr. Kalam's science teacher, was an illuminated soul. Though he belongs to an Orthodox Brahmin family and had a very conservative wife, he wants to homogenize the stratified society of Rameshwaram by breaking social barriers. Therefore, he invites Abdul Kalam to his house for a meal, but his wife did not allow entrance of Muslim boy inside a kitchen. Shiva Subramania Iyer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead he served Abdul Kalam with his own hands and sat down beside to eat his meal. His wife watched from behind the kitchen door. He wants to confront and destroy this Shiva Subramanya Iyer would like to confront and destroy this abominable conduct of his wife, and invited Kalam again for meal next weekend. Meantime, his wife reformed, reformed, had been reformed. The woman not only cooks or allows him meal in the kitchen, but also she sat beside Kalam to serve meal with her own hands. The incident penetrates deep within his heart, and he feel weightlessness, free and equal. A sense of comrade life germinates inside him. This impression makes him a successful team member, which results in his triumph during later years. Sixth question. Write note on Kalam's stint at Schwartz High School. After World War II, Gandhiji declared Indians will build their own India, and the country was filled with strong optimism. Abdul Kalam asked his father's permission to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters at Ramanathapuram. Samsuddin and Jalaluddin traveled with him to Ramanathapuram to enroll Kalam at Schwartz High School. Kalam fell homesick and therefore grabbed every opportunity to visit his hometown. So it was his father's dream to see him as a successful person in the position of a collector. This made him work hard and motivated him to fulfill his father's dream. In this way, his father encouraged him, saying that it was a part of growing up. He consoled him, saying, "Our love will not bind you, not will our needs hold you." So now the last question we have here, write a brief note on the following characters of the story here. I'm sorry, the few important persons. I should not use the word characters here. Write a note on the following important persons from from this extract. Please do correct. Jalaluddin, Ashima, Ahmad, Jalaluddin, Samsuddin, and Shiva Subramanya Iyer. So Jalaluddin. Jalaluddin Kalam's father believed that whenever human beings find themselves alone or in distress, they look for company, help, or consolation of the same kind. Every suffering or desire, pain, or hope finds a special helper. His father considered himself a helper. He believed that with the help of prayer, worship of or offerings, he can defeat evil or self-destructive forces. With the help of prayer, he knew that they cannot solve day to day problems. Prayer of such kind of emanated fear among the people. Fear often prevents one's hope from being fulfilled. Kalam was greatly influenced by his father's philosophy. Abdul Kalam was just about 6 years old when his father decided to put his philosophy into practice. He decided to build a sailboat to ferry pilgrims from Rameshwaram to Dhanuskodi and back. At first, his father made a brisk business. Unfortunately, sometime later, a severe cyclone struck the Rameshwaram coast. The boat was wrecked in strong winds. His father was very calm when he heard about the great losses incurred. In fact, he was more bothered about a greater tragedy caused by a gale. The Pamban Bridge had collapsed during the cyclonic storm, and the train full of passengers was crossing over it. It was his father's dream to see Kalam as a successful person in the position of a collector. This made him work hard and motivated him to fulfill his father's dream. In this way, his father encouraged Kalam, saying that it was a part of growing up, and his father consoled Kalam, saying, "Our love will not bind you, not will our needs hold you." Next person, Ashiyama. Kalam's mother, Ashiyama, came from a more distinguished family. One of her ancestors had been given the title of Bahadur by British. She was equally generous, and they fed many outsiders every day. He had a secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. His parents were widely regarded as an ideal couple. His mother's lineage was the more distinguished. He found an ideal helpmate in his mother. Kalam used to have food with his mother sitting on the floor in the kitchen. Next, Ahmad Jalaluddin, that is Kalam's brother. Ahmad Jalaluddin was a close friend and 15 years older than Kalam. Later, he became his brother in law also. He was Abdul Kalam's mentor, philosopher, and guide. Jalaluddin was fond of education, but domestic circumstances deprived him of his schooling. In spite of this, he is the only person on entire island in Abdul Kalam's infancy who can read and write English. He taught Abdul Kalam the art of positive thinking and provided spark to ignite his intellect towards scientific discoveries. Moreover, He encourages Kalam to read about accomplishment in medical sciences, English literature, and other frontiers of knowledge. He arranges books for Abdul Kalam from STR Manichem Personal Library. He enlightens and emboldens Abdul Kalam's young mind towards mysteries of cosmos and enchant him to the magical world of creativity. He and his wife Zohra had great faith in the talents and the abilities of Abdul Kalam. They had total conviction that Kalam will shine like rising sun on the horizon. Abdul Jalaluddin is the person who burnt his soul to let Abdul Kalam flies to the present heights. Next, Samsuddin, that is Kalam's cousin. The second person who had a great influence on Kalam's child was Samsuddin. He was the only one newspaper distributor in Rameshwaram. He helped him to earn his own money in the newspaper distribution when there was sudden crisis or increase of demand, a sudden increase of demand during the Second World War 1939. Samsuddin, his first cousin, trained him in the enterprise and economics of trade and labor, which had later reflected in his work. In all curiosity, get an update on the war through pictures. Abdul Kalam would glance at the periodicals and the newspapers before Samsuddin, his first cousin, would always go to deliver to the customer. Due to the emergency, the train halt at Rameshwaram was stopped and the bundles of the newspapers and the periodicals to be distributed. And here, Samsuddin gave an opportunity to Kalam to distribute those newspapers. And here, Mr. Kalam got an opportunity to get his first earning, to get his first wages, and he gave full credit to Samsuddin. Shiva Subramania Iyer. Shiva Subramania Iyer, his science teacher, Kalam's science teacher, was an illuminated soul. Though he belongs to an Orthodox Brahmin family and had a very conservative wife, he wants to homogenize the stratified society of Rameshwaram by breaking social barriers. Therefore, he invites Abdul Kalam to his house for a meal, but his wife did not allow the entry of his Muslim boy inside a kitchen. Shiva Subramania Iyer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead, Iyer served Abdul Kalam with his own hands and sat down beside to eat his meal. His wife watched from behind the kitchen door. He wants to confront and destroy this abominable conduct of his wife and invited Abdul Kalam once again for meal next weekend. Meantime, there was a reform, there was a change in his wife's attitude, and his wife not only cooked but also allowed Mr. Kalam to enter the kitchen, and she also served the food to Kalam by her own hands. So, in this manner, the incident penetrates deep within his heart, and he feels weightlessness, free and equal. A sense of comrade lie germinates inside him. This impression makes him a successful team member, which results in his triumph during the later years. So, friends, this is how I have solved the important questions of the lesson, The Wings of Fire from by A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. And if you like the video, click on the like button, write in the comment box. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe the channel. And also the summary of all the lessons and of this lesson also, you can see the links in the description box or in the playlist. If you have any questions or any queries, any notes you require, you can mail me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching this video.